Guys, it's Shadow the Rat, and for today's video, I wanted to talk about an event that I took my rats to recently. Well, I took 8 of my rats to it, so not all of them, and I'll talk about why I took specific rats in a minute. But basically, I took them to a family fun event, which is something I've taken several of my rats to before. I've done a few other videos on events I've taken my rats to, but basically, this is an event where the animal organizer for the event is someone who gave me some rats a few years back. And she is really amazing, and she absolutely loves rats and other animals that are considered, kind of not so great in the public eye, just any animal that kind of has an undeserved reputation. And she took her own rats to these events in the past, but once I got some rats from her, she started to invite me to go to these events as well, and I ended up going to a few with the rats I got from her and had a lot of fun at them, and they were just really great. Lots of people had great experiences with the rats, and the rats did really well. So I decided to keep going, and she's invited me to a bunch more events since then, and my rats have always done really well, so I've continued to go to these events. It's really nice seeing kids and also adults just get to experience a more positive side of rats, and I've had so many experiences at these events with people coming in very nervous about rats, or having negative experiences, wild rats, and generalizing those onto pet rats. And media, doesn't portray rats very well either. So in general, people don't have the best opinion of them. And so the nice thing about these events is that I can just bring my rats out there, and people get to experience interacting with them, and they get to see just how great pet rats are and how they're very sweet and very clean and very sociable. And very smart and just amazing animals. Now, I decided to take 8 of my rats to this event, and every single year it seems like I'm taking more rats. And the reason for that is because they are super popular at these events. I did not realize how popular they were going to be at first, but now that I know, I like to take enough rats that I can actually rotate through rats so they're not all out there all the time. And so that if there are a lot of people, I can bring out extra rats so, they're not getting swarmed. It just makes it a little bit easier if I have more rats in that case. So this time I decided to take raisin, tofu, coffee, carrot, cracker, crumb, pistachio, cinnamon, and that's it. Actually, that's 8. So I decided to take those 8 girls. All of those are standard rats, and they consist of my 6 younger standard rats plus 2 of my older standard rats. And the rats that I left home are popcorn, toast, jelly bean, and pumpkin seed. And the reason I decided to leave those 4 home are, first off, with popcorn. While she is a standard rat and has gone to events before, she's really not a people rat, and really doesn't enjoy being touched all that much. Like, she tolerates it fine, but she prefers not to be touched. And so now that she's an older rat, I figured that it was kind of time to retire her from these events and let some of the younger rats take over. So she got to stay home because of that. As far as Toast goes, she is a dwarf rat, and I don't really like to take my dwarfs to these events until they are over 1.5 years of age and a lot sturdier than they were when they're younger. So Toast has been to a few of these events because she's over 3 now, so she's been doing this since she was 1.5 years. However, now that she's over 3, I feel like she's a bit frail to continue doing these events. I shouldn't say frail really, because she's not frail. She's not really showing any signs of aging, but again, she's over 3, and for a rat, that's really old. And even though dwarf rats tend to live longer, that's still very old, and I just don't feel like it's super great to take a really old rat to one of these events. So Toast didn't come because of that. And then we have Pumpkin Seed and Jelly Bean, and those 2 are my younger dwarfs. They're not even 1 year old yet, and that is why I didn't take them, because I feel both of those girls are too small to go to these events. And honestly, Pumpkin Seed is probably going to always be too small because she's just a really small dwarf. And it does kind of suck because she is the perfect personality for these events. Like, she's a super people-y obsessed rat. But it's okay, she gets lots of socialization with me and my family, so she's just fine. Anyways, that's why I took the rats that I did. Yeah, all 8 girls did really well, especially considering that I had to get them up super early at like 6 o'clock because I actually had work that day in the morning, and my work is super close to where this event was being held, but the event is like 40 minutes away from where my home is. So I really didn't have time to come home from work, grab the rats, and then go to this event. And so I decided to just bring my rats with me to work, which is fine. But it meant that they didn't get a ton of rest. So that kind of sucked. And even though they were resting some while I was at work, they still weren't resting a lot because, it's like a new place. But they still did really well, even though they were awake for like 12 hours straight. Not straight, they took little naps in between, but still, like, that was 12 hours of being out and about, which is a lot for rats. And the event itself was, let's see, 5 hours long, I want to say. So it wasn't too bad. Some of the other events we've done have been a little bit longer, but because I had to get the rats up early because I was taking them to work with me, it was a little bit longer than they usually are out. But again, they did really well. Unfortunately, all these clips are from the end of the event, so they were pretty tired at this point, but you can still see that they did really well. We only had one incident, which was where some girls were feeding Crumb, which is my little gray fluffy girl, some yogurt off their fingers, which is something I have there for people to do. I find it's a really good way for the rats to enjoy themselves because they love yogurt. And it's also a great way for people to see how gentle rats are because, well, they're looking it off your finger and clearly they're distinguishing the food from your finger and are very careful not to hurt you. Which I think helps build people's confidence in them a lot quicker than even just, seeing them because they're actually experiencing that gentleness in person. But anyways, Crumb was being fed some yogurt by some girls that were a little bit nervous, I think, about her. And so they were feeding her yogurt off their fingers on the table, and then they moved their fingers away from her off the table. And Crumb, instead of being a smart rat and realizing there was an edge to the table, even though she had been there for a while, she just walked right off the table trying to continue licking the yogurt. Oh my gosh. So that was an incident, and it was not great. Thankfully, she was completely fine, which is why I'm laughing. Obviously it would not be funny if she was not fine, and in the moment, I was very concerned. But thankfully, she was okay, and she wasn't injured or anything like that. She was just completely ready to continue eating yogurt because that is how Crumb is. But yeah, that incident was the first time I've ever had a rat walk off a table in all my years of doing these events. So that was definitely a bit of an eye-opener, especially because Crumb's harness was not working properly. So she actually wasn't wearing it because she kept getting out because it just wasn't working properly. It wasn't closing properly. And I wasn't too worried because we were inside, so it wasn't a big deal. And usually I just have the harnesses on in case the rats spook so I can stop them from, bolting off. But in this case, I decided that Crumb clearly needed a harness on so I could watch her a little bit better. So I ended up exchanging her harness with Tofu's and just had Tofu chilling without hers because Tofu is not going to walk off the table for food. She's not that food motivated. So I decided Tofu got naked privileges, which is kind of ironic considering she is literally a hairless rat, so she is naked all the time. But anyways, yeah, that was the only incident we had. Thankfully, nothing too bad, and Crumb was okay. But yeah, I'm going to keep a close eye on Crumb in the future because she has proven she is not the smartest when it comes to food. But yeah, everyone did quite well, and yeah, I was very proud of how the rats did, and everyone loved them, so yeah, and it was great. Anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about the rats' little adventure, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye!